Well, a pathologist and a relative of anti-apartheid activist Imam Abdullah Haron is expected to take the stand in the High Court in Cape Town today on the third day of the reopened inquest into his death in detention 53 years ago. Well, yesterday, an expert witness, aeronautical engineer Thivash Moodley, testified that the injuries sustained by the Imam, as reflected in the post-mortem report conducted then, are inconsistent with the version of the security branch of an alleged fall down the stairs at the then Caledon Square police station. Our reporter Vanessa Poonah is following the inquest proceedings, and she joins us now. She is, of course, with camera person Lukhanyo Mazantsana. Vanessa, a good morning to you. I think just take us through, firstly, what the family saw yesterday. I know that we were able to see Imam Haron's daughters actually looking at the police station where their father was held.
Yes, and I think for the family, the three siblings and extended family of the late Imam, it must have been a harrowing day yesterday. Not only did the in-loco inspection start at the Cape Town Central Police Station, that of course the site where he was originally detained, spent the better part of his 123-day detention at then Caledon Square, now Cape Town Central Police Station. It's also where the in-loco inspection took us to the flight of stairs where, according to the security branch policemen, the Imam would have fallen and slipped, according to their version of what had taken place. Now, you've mentioned there in the introduction that the aeronautical engineer, Mr. Thivash Moodley, indeed accompanied the inspection. He, of course, demonstrated on the stairs itself how, and he later testified in court, improbable or inconsistent the version would have been. For example, he was talking about the mass of the Imam, 45 years old at the time, some 1.7 meters tall. I'm also talking about if, according to the trajectory, he would have fallen between 1.1 and 1.3 meters. That, of course, according to Mr. Moodley, not indeed a very high height. Then also his expert testimony, he of course completed a report which was presented to the court, also found that the injuries, and there were some 27 bruises, fractured rib that the Imam had suffered, saying that these are inconsistent with that version, that, for example, if he had fallen, fatal falls, according to his studies that he had conducted and research that he had conducted, rather, would have shown injuries to the neck, spine, brain, saying that those, for example, were not reflected on that post-mortem report that took place, the post-mortem itself, in 1970. So, therefore, the conclusion yesterday in court by Mr. Moodley was that the version, the injuries that the Imam sustained, not consistent with what was reported by the then security policemen, Spyker van Wyk and Dirk Kennis, and also what the post-mortem had found. And of course, you mentioned there that it was quite a trying day for the family, because after that in-loco inspection at Cape Town Central Police Station, the court then moved to Maitland Police Station, and that's where members of the Haron family indeed did break down, because that's where, according to the evidence presented thus far, where the Imam's body was found in incarceration in the cell. Of course, the family members, Judge Daniel Tulare, and then of course visiting the inside of that cell with some minor changes to the cell, the way it looks now to what it looked like then. But of course, that where it was proved to be overwhelming for the family, they had, of course, for over 50 years maintained that there's no way that their father could have died in police detention, in police custody, according to the version of what the then security branch had proffered at the time. And of course, this inquest court is sitting for this week and all of next week, and the main aim of this court is to determine the cause of death of the late Imam, and then also whether there would be prima facie evidence that could hold a person or persons responsible for his death. Today, day 3, we do expect that a pathologist as well as a relative of the late Imam will take the witness stand here. Quite a few more witnesses that will be coming to testify over the course of the rest of this week and of next week, so that Judge Daniel Tulare, of course the inquest judge in this matter, will have as much evidence that he needs to come to a determination decision on whether or not to overturn that original inquest, finding that no one could be held to blame for the late Imam's death.
Keen to hear, Vanessa, if while in conversation with the Haron family, they're understanding just how big of an impact this inquest really can have, where it really is following up on the precedents that was set by the inquest into the death of Ahmed Timol. Are they understanding the importance of this process in opening up the floodgates for investigations into apartheid-era deaths?
Indeed, that has been the family's contention since I started speaking to them and started doing stories around the death of Imam Haron. And even this week, speaking to the daughters of the Imam, saying that this case is the first of its kind in Cape Town. But besides that, not just for closure for the Haron family, but also for all the other victims and families during the apartheid era that were victims or alleged victims of the security branch. I mean, just this week, we've seen activists as well as relatives and family members of, among others, Steve Biko, the sister of Ashley Creel, another anti-apartheid activist. I mean, we've seen former detainees and we do expect that some of them will indeed also take the stand later on in this inquest. So the family is quite aware, and they've been saying that this is not just about their own family. This indeed is about setting the record straight, and even though, according to them, the alleged perpetrators, if it is found that there is a prima facie case that someone or people could be held responsible, it's not just about holding people accountable. Yes, it is, but it's also about getting history right. It's about setting the history book straight in terms of how victims during the apartheid era would have been, for example, tortured, would have died. And they're saying that even though this inquest may not bring full closure, it will bring some closure, because they always maintained that they do not agree with the apartheid regime, the security branch's contention that their father just simply slipped down a flight of stairs, and then, of course, that causing his death 53 years ago.
Yeah, and of course that pathologist coming in and sharing their view certainly going to be an important element, considering as well, Vanessa, having spoken about those elements of what the security branch noted as the reason for the death of Imam Haron, and of course some of the contentious issues around whether or not those are plausible reasons. But let's leave it there. Vanessa, thank you so much for bringing us the latest, and she is of course keeping us updated about the inquest into the death of Imam Abdullah Haron, who died 53 years ago in detention.